All right, so today we're looking at slopes, which we talked about yesterday. And this is lesson 12, slope of a non-vertical line. And I am going to show you a vertical line. This was here because the lessons that I was following, I've skipped one and they already did vertical lines. So I'll do it at the very end of the lesson. So here's two lines, lines on graph A and graph B. And it says which is steeper. Well, you just watched Slope Dude. It was wonderful, wasn't it? And if he had to go from left to right and go up this hill, which one would be harder? This one or this one? Hopefully you picked B. All right, so we know that graph B is steeper. Write directions that explain how to move from one point on the graph to the other for both point on the other for both graph A and B. Now, this seems to get kind of tedious, and it's for a reason. So just bear with me. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these 2 points, and I use my black pen first, and we got to look at the coordinates. So here's where you got to get your X's and Y's down. And I'll get confused, I'm sure, so just because I'm trying to go fast. All right, so we've got -2 on the X. That's a negative. And we are at -1 on the Y for this point here. And for this other point, we're at 1, 1. All right, so I'm going to start with this one, and the first thing I'm going to suggest you do, especially when you first start, you'll probably get better at it, but I'm taking my purple pen, I'm just going to draw a vertical line through my leftmost point, and only because it is further to the left than this point. Okay, then wait a minute, let me think about that. Not always, because it's lower. If this point's lower than this point, you're going to go vertical line. Since this point's higher, I'm going to do a horizontal line. Now, these lines, right now I'm going through, and it's very important that you mark this, X is equal to -2. So I'm going to write X is equal to -2 up here. And at the end of this purple line, I'm at Y is equal to -1. Positive 1, I'm sorry. So I'm going to put Y is equal to 1 there. Now, to get from this point to this point, I'm going to go up until I hit the line Y equals 1. So that I'm going up 2 spaces. Then I'm going to go to the right 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I'm going to draw my arrow line that way and put +3. All right, so the directions for that. All right, so how to move from one point to the other. Okay, so for graph A, you're going to move up 1, 2 spaces along X equals -2 until it intersects with X or Y equals 1, the other line. Okay, then we're going to go right, R-I-G-H-T, and that looks like one word, but it's not supposed to be. Go right, and we're going to go 3 units until I can't right there, U-N-T-I-L, you reach the point 1, 1. Okay, so move up 2 spaces along it. Okay, and I should have put from the point -2, -1. Move up 2 spaces. Okay, so that's for graph A. Then for graph B, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to mark this point as -2 on the X and -1 on the Y. And this point here is going to be 1 on the X and 3 on the Y. So now I'm going to draw, since this one's lower than this one, I'm going to draw a vertical line. And this vertical line goes through X equals -2, my bad. And this vertical line, or horizontal line, sorry, goes through the point Y equals 3. And I can just look at this point and look at the Y. I can look at this point and look at the X. Okay, so I'm moving up 1, 2, 3, 4. So +4 up. And then I'm going to move over to the right 1, 2, 3. plus 3. So move up 4 spaces from, I forgot to put that, -2, -1, along x equals -2, then go right 3 spaces, where the lines intersect, where lines x equals -2 and y equals 3 intersect. Until you reach the point 1, 3. Okay, then it says write the directions from part B as ratios, then compare the ratios. How does this relate to the steeper graph in part A? All right, so if we write this one as a ratio, remember slope is the change in y over the change in x. And remember when we do constant of proportionality, we're doing y over x. So that's a way to remember that, but it's the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y, let's go back and look at it. Okay, so I'm going up the y-axis, or I'm going up parallel to the y-axis, I should say, up 2 spaces. All right, now, when I go up those 2 spaces, if we look over here at the y, I'm going to put my pen on y, and I'm going to put my finger on x equals -2, this purple line, and I'm moving up 1, 2. All right, well, what am I doing as far as the coordinates on the y-axis? Okay, I'm at -1 down here, and when I move up to this line, when I intersect it, I'm now at +1 on the y. So I'm at, again, -1 and +1, which are both y's. So I've got a -1 and a +1, and I want to know the space between them. Well, when you find the distance between two things, you subtract them. So by distance, I'm going to subtract these two numbers. Okay, and when I do that, that's going to be -1 plus -1, because I have to add the opposite. Okay, and when I do that, I get -2. Now, remember, it's a distance, and distance is never negative. Okay, we were just subtracting these two numbers to see how far apart they were on the number line. So absolute value is distance from 0, or it used to be, now we're going to say absolute value is distance, and distance is always positive. So in that case, it's 2 units away. And that's exactly what we got here, 2 units. Okay, so now if I do the, go horizontally on the y equals 1, well, when I'm traveling across the y's from here to here, okay, I'm going on the x, let's start here, and I'm here and I'm moving, well, let me get on the x there. Okay, I'm moving 1, 2, 3. Well, what are the x coordinates? I'm at 1 here, and back here I was at -2. So if I subtract -2 minus that 1, and look right here, -2 minus this 1. So you're subtracting the x coordinates. And when you do that, wow, that got smeared, I'm sorry. So it's -2 minus +1. That's going to be the same thing as -2 plus -1. And -2 plus -1 is -3. And I went distance, and distance is always positive, so the absolute value of -3 is 3. And notice I went +3 units to the right, and that's what I've got there. So I've got 2 over 3 is the ratio, okay, for graph B. So now I'm going to do the same thing. This was B. So now I'm going to do the same thing for A. All right, so change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to look at this again, and I'm going up 4. All right, so if I move up from this point, -2, -1, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well, if I want to see that space and I'm moving up the y-axis, I look at x equals -1 and y equals -1 and y equals 3. So I should be able to take -1 minus the 3 and get negative 1 plus negative 3, which is negative 4. And then I'm going to take the absolute value of that, so it's positive 4. So way back here, normally as mathematicians, we go ahead and put the absolute value on right away so we don't forget to do it. So when we're finding distance, which is the change in y, the distance between one y coordinate and the other, okay, it's always positive. All right, so now if I do the change in x, okay, so now I'm here, and I'm on the x-axis, and I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 units to the right. Okay, well, what were my x-coordinates? They were negative 2 and 1, x. So I'm going to take negative 2 minus 1, and I'm going to do the absolute value. Well, negative 2 minus 1 is negative 2 plus negative 1, which is negative 3, and the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So for graph, I put graph B there. That's supposed to be A, and this one's supposed to be B. Okay, so it says to compare the two. So I've got 2/3 for one slope, and I've got 4/3 for the other. And right away, we know that 4/3 is 1 1/3, which is bigger than 2/3, so we're going to put a greater than symbol there. Now remember the slope? This one was steeper, and notice its slope is bigger than the other slope. Okay? So steepness of a line can be found by comparing the slopes. Okay, so now what I'd like for you to do is pause the video, and you are going to do pair 1, pair 2, there you go, there, pair 3, and pair 4 on your own, and then you'll come back and check them, and I'm going to do them right now, and I'm going to do them pretty fast, so this is just for a check. All right, so, and I'm just going to kind of talk to myself here. So this is the point, negative 4, negative 3, and this is the point, negative 1, 1. Okay, so I'm going to go, this is the lower point, so I'm going to do a vertical line here, and that line is x equals negative 4. I'm going to do a horizontal line here through the other point, and that is y equals negative 1. Okay, so I am moving up, so I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going up 4, and I'm going right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going right 5. So, oops, I forgot to say which one was steeper. Obviously, A is steeper. Okay, now write the directions explaining how to move from one point on the graph to the other. Okay, so for graph A, we're going to go, and I'm just going to make this a little bit briefer. I'm going to say go up 4 spaces on the line x equals negative 4 from the point negative 4, negative 3. When I'll just go ahead and say it, x equals negative 4 intersects y equals negative 1, go right. Oops. Okay, and we're going to go right 5 spaces to the point negative 1, 1. Okay, for graph, well, we're good. Okay, so now for graph B, let me do that one. So I'm at the point here. It is negative 4, negative 5. This is x, this is y. Okay, and then over here, I'm at negative 4. No, I'm not. Let me make sure I did this one right. Negative 1. Yep, I did it backwards. Positive 1, negative 1. That's what I'm talking about. You really got to pay attention which one's x and which one's y. All right, and I just had a feeling that. Now, that one I did right. This one I did wrong. Okay, so I'm at 6, 7, 8 on the x, and then I got to come over here to negative 4. All right, and so this is my x, this is my y. I'm going to go ahead and name my x's and y's, just because I think it makes it easier once you try to do the shortcut. Now, I'm going to pretend that, oh, I know, okay, these two variables have one name, first names. They don't have last names. So like Cher, she's from my time, and Bono, okay, and they don't have last names. So here's Cher and Bono. Well, if this is X and Y2, that's got to be Cher and Bono, but it's not. It's two different points. So we're going to give them last names. And in math, when we give them last names, we give them subscripts. So I'm going to call that one